Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Math and STEM, where our mission is to reach out to as many professionals, aspiring professionals, students, whatever you name it. We try to reach out to them, who essentially support the initiative of bringing more women and young girls into the STEM field. So, with that being said, as always, feel free to open up the description or transcript to better follow along, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
There we go. It worked.
Hello, and thank you so much for coming to this call today and talking with me. Just to sort of start off, do you mind introducing yourself as well as sort of walking us through your journey to get you where you are today?
Yeah, hi. So I am Dr. Ryann Cartor. I am an assistant professor in the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences at Clemson University, and I uh, do my research mainly in post-quantum cryptography. I went to undergrad at Bellarmine University in Louisville, Kentucky, where I was a math major. I went to graduate school at the University of Louisville, where I started working with my advisor, Dr. Daniel Smith-Toney. He has a joint appointment both at the University of Louisville and NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They are very important in this new realm of research looking at post-quantum cryptography. And so I was really very grateful to work with him. And then after that, I went to Clemson, actually started as a postdoctoral fellow, and then transitioned to be an assistant professor in 2021.
Sounds good. What got you first interested in mathematics? And then, like, once you were in mathematics, what got you interested in post-quantum cryptography?
So in like grade school and high school and everything, I really just liked school in general. So I liked math, but I've always loved reading, loved English, love art. You can see behind me, I have random things that I have made. So that creative side of me has also always been very important. And so if you had asked me in high school, what are you going to do for your career? I would have said, I have no idea, but here are 17 different things that I think are interesting. So math was a class that I always liked, was a subject that I always thought was interesting. But it was not like, this is what I'm going to do. It was like, oh, one day I'd be like, oh, I could be a math professor. And the next day I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be a journalist. And then, the third day I'd have another thing. So at that point, I really didn't know. So when I went to college, I went in undecided. Did not choose a major because again, I was like, I don't know. I want to do everything. And I ended up taking business calculus for fun. Like that was literally like I went in with kind of thinking, okay, maybe I'll do like sociology, have like a criminal justice idea, maybe do something in that realm. And again, took business calculus as my like, woohoo, this is a fun class to take. And about halfway through the semester, I realized that I loved it. I thought it was, one of my more fun classes, and everybody else was struggling and thought it was miserable. And that's when I was like, oh, maybe I like this more than the average person. Maybe this is a good fit for me. Um, and so that's kind of how I started doing math, was kind of just as I was working on other subjects, was like, oh yeah, no, I do. This is the one that I keep wanting to go back to. Like I don't want to not have math in my life. So became a math major, loved that. And then kind of had a similar situation sort of falling into post-quantum cryptography, in the sense that my first summer in graduate school, so throughout the whole first year of my graduate school, if you had asked me, what are you going to do? What's your research area? I'd be like, I don't know. I like this. I like this. I like this. So as a person, I'm very indecisive and find a lot of things interesting, have a lot of varying interests. So in these times when you have to choose one thing, it can be I'm not very good at it. So again, whole first year was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. My first summer, we had to take two classes, or like 6 hours of class. And the classes that were being offered over the summer, I was like, I don't really want to take those. Like, those don't sound as interesting to me. But two of my friends Ryan Gibson and Jeremy Vates, I'll give them little shout outs. They were doing an independent study in cryptography with Dr. Daniel Smith Toney. And I was like, oh, that sounds like more fun. Like, that sounds like a cool thing. I want to do that for the summer. And then when I started working on it, I was like, oh no, this math is cool. So really the way that I found it was I was like, oh, well, that just sounds more interesting than my other option. And then once I found it, I was like, oh no, I like this. This is very cool. So that's kind of how I found my way there.
Sounds good. I think you also mentioned that you're a very artistic person and you have many other different interests. I was just sort of wondering how you balance such an intensive career as a math professor with your other interests that like you want to do.
That is something, that's a very good question, and something that I think is a hard balance in general. It's something that I've struggled with because I've gone, if you don't make the time, you can go months at a time and be like, I haven't done anything besides my job in all of this time. So it's something that I've really had to try to make time for. My husband is really helpful in that, because if I'm like, spiraling one day and being like, like I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, I feel really uncentered, like I'm really unsettled, he'll be like, how about you paint something? How about you crochet something? Like take some time, step away from the work, do something else, which is helpful because in a job in academia, there's kind of technically always more that you could be doing. It's not something that like, all right, this is what I need to do today. And if I finish this today, then my job is done. Because no, you technically always could be grading, or you always could be prepping for your next class, or you could be reading new research, you could be doing these other things. But that's not logical, like that's not a healthy way to live, always doing more. So finding that balance of what is the amount that I need to do do well at my job, to enjoy my job, to do all of that, but then at what point do I need to call it for the day and take the time to kind of be myself. So I've also gotten better at understanding the peaks and valleys in the quantity of work that I will have throughout the semester. So I love reading, but I normally do not read during the semester. I will read as many books as I can over the summer when I have a little bit more time, and as many books as I can during Christmas break as I have time. And then during the semester, every once in a while, I'll find an audiobook and I'll listen to that when I'm driving to and from work. It's very fun, lets me, have a book, have something to listen to. But I don't make myself feel bad for not doing that one hobby of mine during the semester as much, because I still can have it be a part of my life, just maybe not as much during the summer or during the semester. Those are things that I can kind of enjoy more when I have less going on.
Sounds good. And sort of on the same note, I was just wondering what were some of your like favorite moments as a professor or like a researcher?
Oh, this is fun. So I think a lot of my favorite moments involve people, something that a lot of the outside world doesn't always think about, is that math and academia is a very social job. People think of mathematics research as you're sitting by yourself in your office for hours working like math equations on the board by yourself, and that's not how math research is done at all. It's actually very social in the sense that like you will have those moments where you have to sit, think, read, like you just got to do that, but then you have meetings and then you talk to people, and then this person's idea gives you an idea, and then you can start a project, and so that it's very collaborative, which I like a lot. And so a lot of my research, like favorite experiences, have been being able to see my math friends that I don't get to see very often at different conferences. So in January, we went to the Joint Mathematics meeting, the JMM. It was in San Francisco. I got to see a lot of our international friends there, hang out, talk about math, and then like go get sushi, go to the Golden Gate Bridge. And so it was a really good experience there. I've been able to go to some amazing places. I went to Sydney, Australia for the PKC Public Key Cryptography Conference. Went to a workshop in Switzerland where we went, hung out and talked about math for a week, and then would go visit, the lakes in Switzerland. It was beautiful. So research wise, those have been great. Teaching wise, I really like connecting with the students, and something that I like, an experience that has stood out to me and that I remembered the other day randomly. So this is a great time to talk about it. But when I was in graduate school, I remember I had a student in, I don't even remember what the class is. I think it was probably a business calculus class, and I was teaching, and there was one student who was really good. She would, and by really good, I mean she asked really good questions. She would answer questions. Sometimes you get the questions right, sometimes you get the questions wrong. That's totally fine, but you're participating and you're learning from, okay, maybe that answer wasn't all the way right. So then you can like understand how to make it more right. So she was doing great. And then there was one time during my office hours, she walked in, she was like, "Hey, I have a quick question." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. That's what these are for. Sit on down. What's going on?" She sat down, she looked at me, she goes, "So I think I'm good at math." And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, "Yeah, like, is that a question?" Like, "Yes, you are. Like, you're doing great. Like, absolutely." And it turned out that that had been the first time that she realized that she was good at math. And so it was so cool seeing that she was like, "Oh, I like this." Like, she gave herself permission to be good at math and to say that she liked it. And she went on, I know that she went on to take a lot more math classes. I want to say she graduated with at least a minor in math, if not as a math major. But those moments where students are like, "No, wait, this is cool." Those are my favorite. I love those a lot.
That sounds honestly amazing.
Yeah.
And then just to sort of shift gears a little bit, as like somebody who has worked in post-quantum cryptography, when do you sort of see like quantum computers like becoming a problem or like sort of like post-quantum cryptography becoming something that's like actively, well, not actively being worked on, but sort of like actively being applied?
So post-quantum cryptography is actually, we're already in the process of transitioning from classical cryptography to post-quantum cryptography. So NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, have already released their standards for 3 or 4 post-quantum crypto systems. And so what they've announced is saying, like, these are the parameters, these are the ways you set it up, like these are things that we're considering to be post-quantum secure. But since this is a very active and a newer field, um, as people are switching to these post-quantum algorithms, they're also still using these classical algorithms at the same time. So you can kind of think of it as a hybrid key. So you can think about, like, let's think about your secret information. Like, you have some encrypted, or you have like some plain text message, and then we're going to put it in a box, and we're going to, it's going to be a safe, and we're going to need 2 keys to unlock it. So we're encrypting it. The first key that you would need would be the one for the post-quantum crypto system. The second one you need is for the classical cryptography. So we're using both of them right now at the same time, because we don't want to weaken the security of anything by transitioning to those post-quantum. Just again, it's newer. The classical cryptography has been around since the 70s and 80s. This stuff is newer, so we don't want to like say, "Oh yeah, no, it's all secure," and then be like, "Oh wait, hold on, it's secure," but then there's just one attack. So that's what we're doing. We're in the process of really making sure that everything is as secure as we think it is, but we also are keeping this classical cryptography as a part of it so that we don't miss something. Um, Part of why we want to make this switch now, even though quantum computers are not at the point where they can break things like RSA, like really big numbers, factor them. The reason why we want to switch now is because, let's say that you are an adversary, like you're some malicious like party, and I am posting things on the internet. I'm posting this encrypted data, and I'm encrypting it just using something that is only classically secure. So something like RSA or Diffie-Hellman, something that can be broken with a quantum computer. Then what you could do is you could save everything that I'm posting. And then let's say that quantum computers in 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 years, that's when they are now, you can use them now. You saved that information. So now you can break everything that I'm doing now, even in the future. So I don't know when quantum computers will be at the point where they are ready to really make a big difference for what we're using right now. I'm not sure. I don't follow that closely enough to say like this is what my intuition is, but I can say that it is important that we start switching things now, because when that does happen, you don't want the stuff that you're posting now to be able to be broken in the future.
Sounds good. Also, I think over the summer you spent a week at FAU teaching and instructing at their Young Cryptographers summer camp. I was just curious about like sort of your motivation and inspiration to spend a week in Florida just to teach post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah, it was great. And I will say Florida is great, but wow, it was hot. It was hot. And I I usually I go to Florida every year with my family, but in like May, June. I think that was my first time spending a full week in Florida in August, but it was worth it. Um, so I was really honored to be invited by the FAU group. There's a great group of cryptographers at Florida Atlantic, and they reached out to me, they reached out to the other speakers. And so I was really just happy to be a part of it. So first of all, they're great. I'll kind of give them that. So we have Eduardo Persichetti, Veronica, Francesco, we have Shibai, like some really impressive cryptographers, great people, like wonderful cryptographers and professors and mathematicians to work with in general. So I was excited to see them. But I love the idea of really showing these high school students and showing you all, showing high school girls, like, first of all, this exists. I had no idea that this type of math existed when I was in high school. Also, giving you all a chance just to, play around, explore, think about new types of math that you haven't seen before. And I love the idea of like, if I can help a young, but not like young, but like younger when we think about it in terms of academically, like you guys are all the way to high school. That's amazing. But it is younger normally in your academic career if you want to go to something like a professor or get you like it is younger in that sense. But you guys are all wonderful young adults doing great. Um, but if I could help you all kind of see like, oh, okay, that's Ryann, that's Dr. Carter. She's kind of goofy. She has these other interests. She likes these things. I can do those things and be a mathematician. Like I really like to be able to show a different model of, hey, I don't have to fit into this specific model of a mathematician. I don't have to be somebody that, the stereotype. I don't have to be awkward and not make eye contact with people and sit around in a room all day. And like, that's not really what mathematicians are. That is that stereotype that is in the media of, oh, mathematicians are awkward. They're really serious. They're all boys. Like, no, that is not true. That's not what we want people to think. And so I love just being able to show people like, hi, you can love makeup, you can love art, you can love all of these things. You can be super goofy and you can be a mathematician. So that was part of it. And yeah, I was really happy to be a part of it. It was a very fun week working with you guys. Hanging out with you all was a lot of fun.
And then, sort of just to end off, I was wondering if you had any pieces of advice, suggestions, recommendations, honestly, anything for students who are interested in pursuing a career or a degree in mathematics or cryptography in the future.
Yeah, so I have a few pieces of advice. One of them was something that was told to me by someone when I was in graduate school. I was talking to a professor and I was like, hey, like, I think I might be interested in this specific area of research, but I'm not sure I'm good enough at it. He looked at me, he goes, it doesn't matter if you're good at it or not. It matters if you're interested. And I was like, oh, because if you're interested, you're going to want to keep thinking about it. You're going to want to keep learning it. That's what makes you good at something. A lot of times we think, oh, well, that person picks it up faster than me, so they must be quote unquote better at it than I am. And that's not the case. So don't be afraid to think that you are good enough to do the things. And you should be more thinking about, am I interested in that or not? Another thing very similar is that if you want to get a degree in something, it is not your ability, your natural ability that will get you there. It is your work ethic and your persistence that will get you there, and your ability to keep going when things are tough, your ability to get feedback, learn from that feedback and keep going. Um, and I think that that's something that people can often feel like, oh, well, you know, I'm struggling in this class, so I must not be good at this. And that's one of the biggest things that I can say. That's not what we think. It's I'm struggling in this class, but that's okay. I really like the material. It just might take me a little bit longer to get that. So don't be afraid to say that you think something is interesting. Don't be afraid to say that you think you're good at something. If you like a subject, just learn what you can about it, and like you are enough, and just keep doing it. So I think those are kind of my two things: is go based on interest, not what you think your perceived level of skill is at it, and persistence is way more. It will get you so much farther than like innate what you're good at naturally.
Okay, thank you so much for once again coming to this call and sharing your experience. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, no, this was so much fun. It was so great talking to you. And let me know if you need anything else.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely.